From the News Center tonight, warnings from Washington for the Sandinistas.
The U.S. State Department blames the Haitian Army commander for Election Day violence. And federal officials keep their bargain with Cuban inmates. Some are home with their families.
These stories and more next on News Center 7 tonight.
WSVN Channel 7, Miami, Fort Lauderdale. Steve Dawson, Jill Beach, Steve Adams Weather, and Brett Lewis with Video Sports Extra. This is News Center 7 tonight.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. A warning from Washington to Nicaragua and Moscow tonight after revelations that the Sandinista government is planning a massive military buildup paid for by the Soviets. The latest announcement from Managua details plans to boost the Central American country's military machine to include a 600,000-man armed forces by 1995. They would be backed up by Soviet MiG jet fighters and advanced missiles and artillery. A recent Nicaraguan defector today told a group of Washington reporters the plans are accurate based on his personal experience in the Sandinista military.
It was worked in Nicaragua. It was initiated in Nicaragua by the chief of the Soviet military group, the chief of the Cuban mission, military mission. They are attempting to create one of the more powerful armies in Latin America.
Meanwhile, top U.S. officials say they'll discuss the buildup with the Soviets. And Nicaraguan Roman Catholic Cardinal Miguel Obando y Bravo says he's heading for his second round of indirect talks with the Sandinistas and the Contra-rebel representatives. So far, there has been no progress towards agreement in those talks.
There's some evidence tonight that a senior Haitian Army commander was behind the violence that canceled the island nation's elections November 29th. 34 people were killed before the first presidential election in 3 decades was called off. The U.S. State Department has numerous reports linking Jean-Claude Paul to the violence. He's a commander of the Haitian Army's largest battalion. In recent weeks, the U.S. has rebuked the Haitian Army for not creating a secure environment for the elections. Immigration officials say the violence in Haiti is not enough to keep Haitian refugees from being sent back to Haiti. More than 3,100 Haitians, most adrift on overcrowded boats, have been returned so far this year under an interdiction agreement between the U.S. and Haiti. More than 11,000 have been turned back since 1981.
8 Mariel detainees know tonight for certain they will not be sent back to Cuba. The Justice Department is keeping its promises and releasing inmates who were up for parole before the riots in Atlanta and Oakdale, Louisiana. News Center 7's Cecilia Fernandez talked to one of the former inmates today who's back with his family in Miami.
The Oakdale prison standoff was an emotionally draining ordeal for Julio Sanchez. The Mariel refugee tried to keep calm, cooking for inmates and hostages during the negotiations. But the fear of deportation to Cuba would throw him into fits of depression and despair. Finally, on Friday, he boarded a plane to Miami, and the government's promise became reality.
Yo sinceramente le digo, todavía yo esto no lo creo.
Sanchez says his new freedom feels like a dream after serving nearly 2 years for food stamp fraud. His wife is still dazed, saying nothing matters now that her husband is home again. A review panel had scheduled Sanchez for parole back in August, months before Cuba and the United States signed the Immigration Pact. Then the riots began. His family thought he had died in the violence.
I'm very happy. I'm very happy he's back here. I needed him.
I thought he was gonna go to Cuba.
And how did that make you feel?
Bad.
As Sanchez starts the task of rebuilding his life in Miami, his thoughts go back to his fellow inmates in Oakdale. He hopes they too can spend this Christmas with their families. Cecilia Fernandez, News Center 7 in Miami.
The inmate releases are drawing praise from Miami Auxiliary Bishop Augustine Roman. He says, quote, it's in keeping with the spirit of the agreement, which brought the inmate uprisings to an end. But Roman is not satisfied with the Justice Department plans for reviewing the inmate cases. He and other Cuban leaders will go to Washington Friday to discuss the review plan.
There's some word tonight on the American hostages still held in Beirut. The Soviet KGB reportedly told the CIA during last week's summit that the hostages are alive but in dreadful condition and subjected to frequent druggings. A White House spokesman denies any knowledge of such discussions during the summit. Reagan administration officials say the Washington summit did serve to improve U.S.-Soviet relations, but not to transform them. Top aides point to several problems not solved at the summit that still need to be addressed before a planned Moscow summit in June. Issues such as Nicaragua and human rights.
Police continue their search tonight for the North Dade man suspected of murdering 3 relatives and critically wounding a 4th. 17-year-old Michael Hedberg Jr. remains hospitalized at Jackson Memorial Hospital tonight. Metro Dade police reported yesterday that the teen had died of his injuries. The incorrect report was carried by News Center 7 and several other media outlets. Hedberg is in very serious condition, but he is alert. He was shot 3 times Friday night. His father and grandparents were killed, and a massive manhunt is on for his uncle, James Herndon. Police consider Herndon extremely dangerous. A custody dispute was apparently behind the murder-suicide that claimed 6 lives in Oklahoma City today. Police say a recently divorced man shot his ex-wife in the head and then went on to shoot and kill 4 more people, including 2 of his children, before turning the gun on himself. He was reportedly distraught over losing custody of the children. A 4-year-old daughter is the only survivor. She is in critical condition.
A Sunrise couple continues their battle for custody of their 5-year-old niece tonight. A New Jersey judge will make his decision this week. News Center 7's Bud Fraga reports Deborah and Gary Stern left for the Garden State today, convinced they are the best guardians for Rachel Rouser.
This girl's stepmother, grandparents, and her aunt and uncle all want custody of her. For months, Rachel's been bounced up and down the East Coast as different family members argue over who's best suited to care for her. For Gary and Deborah Stearns, the answer is simple.
She's our family, she's our blood, and the issue here is the sanctity of the family.
The grandparents are also blood relatives, but Deborah doesn't think they're suited to provide for Rachel.
Well, my father retires in a year, and financially, and just because we have the younger children and everything. But since they are grandparents, you know, Rachel would see them, you know, a lot.
The doctors have met with all 3 sides. All 4 doctors, including and not including the 5th one being the ad litem, has all said there's no question of who should have the child.
Stearns maintain that Rachel's stepmother only wants custody so she can get her hands on her daughter's $3 million trust fund. It'll be up to a New Jersey judge to decide if that accusation is true and who will provide the best environment for the young girl.
It needs to end, because we're not dealing with a piece of meat here. We're not dealing with a toy. We're dealing with a human life, and it's not just one life. It's dealing with all of our lives.
So Gary and Deborah Stearns head for New Jersey. They hope to fight a winning custody battle for Rachel. But they face another fight. There's a warrant for their arrest in New Jersey for not having paid their legal fees. Gary says they'll either be staying in a hotel or the county jail. Bud Fraga, News Center 7.
Protesters gathered at airports in Miami, Washington, and New York today to say no to discrimination. The marchers are showing their support for a woman who has filed suit against Air France for discrimination and sexual harassment. The woman claims that when she discovered she was paid $10,000 less than her male counterparts, her supervisor suggested she could solve the problem by having sex with him. The National Organization for Women is showing its support.
To send a message to Air France that when they discriminate against one woman, they discriminate against all women. And when they adopt sexual harassment as a policy of management, there are women and men in this country who will rise up in protest.
Protesters want Air France to reinstate the woman to her position and give her a public apology.
Handicapped shoppers got a chance to avoid the holiday rush today. The doors of the Burdines in Coral Square Mall were opened early this morning for a special shopping session. The handicapped who live in the area got to fill their Christmas orders without being jostled. One woman says the stores were so crowded last week she was shoved from her crutches.
Walk away. I feel more relaxed. And I look back to look around. I don't like too many people push and push and push.
Many of the shoppers say they wish more stores would follow the Burdines example.
Frank Sinatra is going to take care of the Christmas shopping for a Miami mother and her 4 children. The entertainer made the offer to play Santa Claus after hearing about the plight of Amelia Coleman, the president of a Crime Watch chapter. Extra precautions didn't keep burglars from stealing all of the presents from under her tree. Sinatra is sending enough money to make sure Coleman's children have a happy holiday season. The youngsters in the children's ward at Jackson Memorial Hospital were entertained today with a surprise early visit by a motorcycle-riding Santa Claus. He brought presents to them all the way from Fort Lauderdale, courtesy of the Vietnam Vets Motorcycle Club. And if receiving the presents meant a lot to the kids, giving them meant a lot to the vets.
It's got to be the best experience to see the look on these kids' faces, because they're going to be probably here in the hospital for Christmas, and we're not. And it can't be any lonelier than being in a hospital. I spent time in Nam. I know what it's like to be lonely at Christmas time, and I feel for the kids, and so does everybody else that took part in this.
What a nice gesture.
Yes.
Still ahead, holiday decorations you'll have to swim to see.
And aquarium doctors keep a close watch on a battered baby whale. That story's next on News Center 7 tonight. Workers at Miami Sea Aquarium have posted a whale watch tonight. A young pygmy sperm whale is in their care. Rescuers found the 6-month-old near Everglades City yesterday, bleeding and lying in a bed of rocks and oyster shells. The battered baby whale is being treated with antibiotics and fed a special formula for his long-term chances for survival are slim. And today, the patient didn't eat much, but did eat something, and that's giving doctors reason for hope.
He's slightly anemic at this.
A first mate who tried to make off with a yacht landed himself in a lot of trouble when he ran aground off Card Sound Bridge. Police found Tom Snyder high and dry yesterday, have charged him with grand theft. The Turning Point turned up missing from its anchor off Dinner Key Wednesday. The yacht's owner was certain his mate and dog had been kidnapped. Apparently, the dog was the only unwilling passenger.
They're decking the decks of the Mercedes for Christmas, but you'll have to go for a dive to enjoy the decorations. The vessel is under 97 feet of water off Fort Lauderdale Beach. Members of the South Florida Divers Club wrapped garlands around an 8-foot tree mounted on the vessel's wheelhouse and added red ribbons to its rails, all to make sure the artificial reef is ready for the holiday. I don't know, how about any good weather to go diving to see those decorations? Is it diving weather?
Doesn't really matter, I guess, if you're that far under what it's doing outside.
Yeah, but you have to go out to get there.
That can make it a little rough sometimes. Now let's take a look at what it is outside right now. Outside our doors in Miami, it's 68, 72 in Miami Beach, 65 in Kendall. No report from Fort Lauderdale at this time, 73 in Key West. Winds right now to the east at 8 miles an hour, the barometer 30.09 and rising. Humidity 76%, no report on the surf at this time. And looking at the highs around the state today, well, it was a beautiful day, hugging the 80-degree mark around most of the state. The lower portions were 74 over on the beach and 78, 76 down in the Middle Keys. The hot spot in South Florida, 81 in Naples this afternoon. Around tonight, we're going to have temperatures hugging the 60-degree mark in North Florida under a cloudy sky. They're getting the forefront of some storm systems that are moving across the northern portion of the Gulf Coast states. Mid-50s here in Central Florida. In South Florida, we're going to have temperatures down into the low 60s for the most part. Tomorrow, some shower activity across the northern portion of the state. Mid-70s in Central Florida under partly cloudy skies, mostly sunny skies for us tomorrow. Our temperatures are going to range in the Indian summer range again in the low 80s. Well, around the nation today, it has been a hot day weather-wise, if you want to call it that. A lot of activity anyway, with storms moving across the lower plain states. Heavy rains and snows and freezing rains moving across portions of Texas, out of New Mexico and Arizona. They've had 19 inches of snow in Rio Doso, New Mexico. High winds also in the Houston, Lake Charles, Louisiana area. A lot of thunderstorm activity. Most of that thunderstorm activity is going to continue to move toward the east and northeast a little bit, continue to rain across the northern portion of the Gulf Coast states. And on the northern side of this frontal system moving across the middle Mississippi Valley area, that's going to turn into snow into the central Appalachians. Out west, another system is going to be coming in out there. The forecast doesn't call for this thing to move very far. It's going to move the snow all the way up into the northern plains, up into Minnesota, Wisconsin, and on into the Great Lakes. Out west, another storm coming in there. And in the New England states, snow is going to be moving into their area. We're going to have some clouds from that frontal system across the southern portion of the United States. Temperatures tonight are going to be very low. As a matter of fact, look at this big section of temperatures in the single digits tonight. We're going to be very pleasant. Let's take a look at our forecast for tonight. Fair and cool. A low of about 63 degrees, in the lower 60s anyway. Tomorrow it's going to be partly sunny, warm with a light breeze. The highs are going to be in the low 80s once again. And the winds for the Mariners, southeast, increasing to 15 to 20 knots, seas 4 to 6 feet. And the bays will have a choppy condition. So the winds are getting up and the seas are getting up for the Mariners. Almanac high tide 129 this morning, low tide 733 tomorrow morning, and the sunrise at 6:59, sunset at 5:32 p.m. So it's going to be a nice day, but picking up out of the southeast, the winds will start to make the surf a little choppy out there. But it'll be warm.
Well, we just might have to wait to see those decorations.
I think so.
Steve?
Nutcracker Dreams turned out to be one of the winners in the Winterfest Boat Parade last night. The entry, sponsored by WSVN and WTMI Radio, featured 12 dancers performing excerpts from the classic holiday ballet. It took 3 days to transform the Pasha into the floating wonderland that claimed third place among corporate-sponsored boats over 60 feet.
We can all be proud. Coming up in sports, the women's movement invades high school wrestling.
And the Dolphins win again to move into a first-place tie. Brett Lewis coming our way with Sunday Video Sports Extra. The Dolphins lost a couple of more players to injuries today, but they won the game.
And it was a big win, too. In fact, it puts them in a three-way tie, right, Brett?
That's exactly the truth. Just when you think you have the Dolphins figured out, they come up with a new surprise. After alternating good and bad games all year long, they've now had two outstanding efforts in the span of just 6 days. Highlights and post-game reaction from today's game with the Eagles, NFL highlights and standings, a story to change your image of lady wrestlers, and more on Sunday Video Sports Extra. And welcome into our program for this Sunday evening. The Dolphins have been buried and resurrected more times this year than a Bela Lugosi in an old vampire movie. 2 weeks ago, even some players said their season was over. But today, Miami was in position to crawl back into the lead in the AFC East one more time. Philadelphia Eagles coach Buddy Ryan, known as a defensive genius in some quarters, but it didn't take much smarts to figure out with Dwight Stevenson out of the lineup, come hard at Dan Marino up the middle, and at first it worked. It's Clyde Simmons with the sack in the first quarter. But all that defensive movement leaves you open to big plays. Here, Lorenzo Hampton breaks it outside for 34 yards to the Eagles' 32-yard line. Hampton, playing second fiddle to Troy Stratford the past few weeks, makes a comeback of sorts today. That drive stalled with Quadrivez injured. Don Shula this week signed Van Tiffen to handle those chores, but his 45-yard field goal attempt hits the goalpost, and the Dolphins end up with nothing. Eagles score first in this game. Randall Cunningham, who is improving week by week, rolls out, goes left, goes for Mike Quick in between two defenders. He's got it, 7-0 Eagles. Dolphins knew they had to contain Cunningham if they were going to win this game, and after that play, they did. Took Dan Marino 3 plays in 1 minute to tie it up. Here he hits Stratford, who turns upfield, about to be tackled, then laterals back to Mark Duper, who has finally run out of bounds on the 26-yard line, a 54-yard gain. And hey, you take them any way you can get them. From the 20, Marino and Duper eliminate the middleman. Duper wide open takes it in for the score that ties it at 7-all. Another bad day for Scott Schwade's returning punts. He fumbled 3 times. Now, he recovered the first 2, but he'll lose this one, and that will set up a field goal that puts Philadelphia ahead in this game 10-7, the last time they would be ahead. Marino responds with an 80-yard drive in 20 plays. Here he goes to James Pruitt for 26 yards. At first, the ref signaled touchdown. Then they looked at the instant replay, decided he was down at the 1. But that didn't stop Pruitt from doing his superior dance. He figured he might not get another chance, and he didn't. Ball instead goes to Ron Davenport, pretty good dancer himself. Speaking of career resurrections, there's Davenport. Goes in from the 1, and the Dolphins have a 14-10 lead at the half.
Like I said, when we were able to go into the shotgun, and we were able to run some out of shotgun, and then on first and second down, and when you do that, you get yourself in the pocket quicker. And with the way they rushed the passer, we needed to do that some. And that's what I think helped us throwing the football.
We just play consistent and do what we're capable of doing. And nobody can stop our destiny when we know what we're doing and we play consistent on offense as well as defense.
Dolphins roared down the field on the opening drive of the second half. This is Marino to Mark Clayton. Touchdown capping a 63-yard drive in 4 plays. Marino today passed for 376 yards and at one point hit 11 in a row. Meanwhile, defense rediscovered the pass rush. Cunningham flushed from the pocket, sacked by John Bosa. Dolphins held Cunningham to under 200 yards passing. Marino fired 3 touchdown passes today, this one in the third quarter, again to Clayton. He caught 7 for 107 yards and 2 touchdowns. That made it 28-10, and that was all the scoring Miami needed. Don Shula is a happy camper. He has a defense again, and they just got stronger and stronger. One of the more emphatic sacks that you will see, this one by T.J. Turner. Miami goes above the 500 mark for the first time this year with a 28-10 victory.
Defensively, I thought after they hit the long one on us, then we settled down and played some great defense and took it away from them in the second half. And overall, it was a good win.
Offense really kicked, and seems like we're getting back to our old self, the team that we used to know, and I feel good about it. You know, it's a great feeling and what have you, but we still got ways to go, and let's just keep improving.
If there's any one reason for the Dolphins' resurgence these past 2 weeks, it's been the improvement of some of the young defensive players. Jerry Sandusky reports the Dolphin defenders are finally beginning to flex their muscle.
A youth movement usually begins after a team is knocked out of the playoffs. But for the Dolphins, the youth movement is helping to keep playoff hopes alive. With rookies like linebacker Rick Graff in the lineup, the Dolphins' defense may now lack some experience, but it's definitely no longer lackluster.
I think that we're just playing real hard and a lot of excitement, enthusiasm, and we're playing good right now. You know, we're learning and we're getting better every game, I think.
Second-year defensive lineman T.J. Turner seemed to turn the corner from potential to production today. Turner pounded out a pair of sacks on back-to-back plays.
I mean, we had to have it, and I was like, hey, I gotta step up and try to be a leader, and that's what I did, and we just kept on communicating out there with each other, and it worked out for us.
Number 1 pick John Boza came through with his 3rd sack in 2 weeks. Boza definitely compensates for his lack of acquired polish and technique with energy and enthusiasm, infectious enthusiasm.
I really feel so much confident now out there. You know, I know the guys better. We're working good together, and it takes a while to get into that because defense is such a group. It's not an individual type thing. So we're starting to feel good together, and individually, I'm just the confidence is there, and I think that it's showing a little bit.
One of the things that makes today's performance so promising is that so many of today's heroes are tomorrow's stars. After all, even the leader of this defense is only a second-year veteran. It may seem like John Offerdahl has been with the Dolphins since the mid-'60s, but this is only his 2nd season. And Offerdahl's 10-tackle afternoon is a model performance of what happens when skill and psych share the same uniform.
If we can win when we're young, and some people say we're building, heck, that's all the more power to us, and we're just going to take the guys we got and go with them, and, put it on the line every week. I think we can do it now. It shows you how much emotion can help a little bit.
Granted, a group of inexperienced players is extremely unpredictable, but this group is also extremely energetic and emotional, and that's good reason to be excited about the future, happy with the present, and even willing to forget the past. In Philadelphia, I'm Jerry Sandusky for Sunday Video Sports Extra.
It wouldn't be a Dolphin win, it seems, without some bad news to go along with it. Safety Glenn Blackwood tore ligaments in his knee. He is out at least for the season, and at 30 years of age will face a long rehabilitation if he's going to play again. And the offensive line continues to be decimated. Ron Lee left the game with a badly pulled groin muscle. No word how long he'll be out. Just ahead on Sunday Video Sports Extra, one of the NFL's great rivalries heats up with a body slam. And the Saints ain't the Aints no more. It's party time in the Bayou as New Orleans wins again. Stay with us. And welcome back. Dolphins needed help today to move back into a tie for first in the AFC East, and they got it from a team that just 2 weeks ago put the Dolphins on the brink of elimination, the Buffalo Bills. Bills meeting the Colts, who led the division with a 7-5 record. Bills were 6-6. Bills quarterback Jim Kelly had an outstanding game today. Here he hits Ronnie Harmon for 12 yards and a touchdown to give Buffalo a 7-0 lead. 18th straight game that Kelly has thrown a touchdown pass. Crazy play of the day. Kelly's pass tipped in the air, bobbled by 2 other players before Ricky Porter gets a hold of it. That set up a Buffalo field goal. Colts are running out of quarterbacks. Jack Trudeau was subbing for Gary Hogaboom, who was hurt. Here he is slammed to the ground, suffered a bruised hip, and he was out. So the third-string quarterback, Sean Salisbury, took over, and it was not a day that he'll remember with fondness. Bruce Smith threw the line, hit Salisbury, ball comes loose. Smith picks up the ball for the touchdown. Buffalo wins a laugher 27-7. Steve Grogan was back at quarterback today for the New England Patriots after missing 3 weeks with neck and shoulder injuries and had his usual all-world day against the New York Jets. Here he hit Cedric Jones for 16 yards and the touchdown. Jets secondary is really hurting. Grogan is 11-5 lifetime against the Jets. He destroyed them passing, even running for one score. Hit 11 of 16 for 180 yards. That was just in the first half. Patriots jumped out to a 35-6 lead and just coasted to the victory. Here Grogan completes his 4th touchdown pass of the half, this time to Irving Fryer, and the Patriots go on to win easily 42-20. Christmas has come early in New Orleans, where the Saints went into today's game against Houston sporting a 9-3 record. In the first quarter, Bobby Hebert connects with Eric Martin. He'll shake off the hit, and he is gone. 56 yards for the touchdown to make it 7-0 New Orleans. Houston came into the game tied for first in the AFC Central, but they simply could not stop the Saints today. Nobody's been able to. Again, it's Hebert to Martin. 24-10 is the final. Celebration is on in the Bayou. Saints have already clinched a playoff spot, still have a chance to win their division outright. Now, the last time that Bo Jackson was in Kansas City, he was playing for the Royals baseball team. Today, he was with the LA Raiders playing the Chiefs in football. And it's obvious he is not real popular with the folks in Kansas City. He only gained 1 yard and 3 carries before leaving the game with a sprained ankle. Now, this game always a war. Harmless little punt return here by Boyce Green. James Davis of the Raiders is really serious about wanting to get into it with Mark Robinson of the Chiefs. And now it is bench-clearing brawl time in Kansas City. There were 3 separate fights in this game. Now, every once in a while, a football game would break out. Here, Bill Kinney hits Carlos Carson for 67 yards and the touchdown. Chiefs take a sweet 16-10 victory over the one team they would rather beat than anyone. In San Diego, Chargers hosting the surprising first-place Pittsburgh Steelers. San Diego scores first as Vincey Glenn breaks through and blocks the Harry Newsom punt. David Brandon falls on it in the end zone. That makes it 7-0 in the first quarter. Now, Mark Malone is back to pass in his own end zone. He runs out of time and is dragged down for a safety. That makes it 9-0 San Diego. Chuck Noll is not giving up. His Steelers have come from behind often this year, and they did it again today. Malone is back to pass. Can't find anyone, so he takes off from the end zone. Steelers take it 20-16, stay tied with Cleveland in the AFC Central. San Diego suffers its 4th straight loss. Even before today's game against Dallas, the Washington Redskins had clinched the NFC Eastern Division crown, but the Skins didn't lack for motivation. They'd like to win the home field advantage throughout the playoffs, and besides, they just hate the Cowboys. Even Santa Claus came dressed in riot gear. Anytime the Skins and Cowboys get together, somebody is likely to get hurt. In this case, it was Washington punt returner Eric Yarber. He'll take the kick, make a short return before the Cowboys grab him, then turn him upside down, and now here comes the pile driver. Arbor goes headfirst into the turf. Washington got even by jumping to a big lead. Quarterback Jay Schrader throws deep to a wide-open Gary Clark. Touchdown, Washington. Skins had a 24-3 lead before Dallas finally came to life. Danny White will go down the middle to Mike Renfro. It's a touchdown for Dallas. However, the head coach, Tom Landry, missed it. He was calling 9-7-6 Gab, I think. Cowboys come out on the short end of a 24-20 score, and Tom is looking for a party. St. Louis fans are asking Santa not to take away their team. Cards may be moving, so today's game against the Giants might have been their last at Busch Stadium. That being the case, Vi Sakahima figured he'd give them something to remember. 68 seconds into the game, Sakahima takes the punt, goes 76 yards for a St. Louis touchdown. That's take the Cardinals to an early 7-0 lead. Giants quarterback Phil Simms apparently talking to Tom Landry on 9-7-6 Gab. And while he did, his opposite number on the Cardinals, Neil Lomax, was passing for the game-winning touchdown. St. Louis wins at 27-24. Giants fall to 4-9 on this season. Minnesota Vikings still with hopes of a wild card spot in the playoffs against the Green Bay Packers, who just hope to win someday. Vikings score on the Anthony Carter reception. He gets a late shove from George Green. Is it going to be Fist City? Nah, it's Christmas season. Let's just be friends. Everyone in such a festive mood, this guy even forgives whoever he lost the bet to that forced him to wear that hat. Packers go on a late drive, 72 yards, capped by a 7-yard touchdown run by Kenneth Davis, and the Pack pulls off the upset, 16-10, the final. In Anaheim, the comeback story of the year continues, both for Charles White and his Los Angeles Rams teammates. White rushed for 159 yards today against the Atlanta Falcons. He scored 2 touchdowns, including this one for 21 yards, to put the Rams up 7-0. They increased it to 9-0 on this punt attempt by Rick Donnelly. He is tackled in the end zone by Michael Stewart. Rams scored just about every way imaginable. Here Scott Campbell goes back to pass, but he is picked off by Leroy Irvin. Irvin returns at 47 yards for the touchdown. The Rams keep their faint playoff hopes alive with a 33-0 victory over an absolutely miserable football team from Atlanta. They are bad. A rough outing for former UM quarterback Vinny Testaverde, getting his second start with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Even when he completed a pass against Detroit today, he needed help. This one deflecting from Bruce Hill to Ron Hall. Ray Perkins has now seen just about everything in his first season at Tampa Bay, but he has hopes for the future. Present, however, is no prize. Here's Vinny is intercepted by Jimmy Williams. He returns at 48 yards to the Buccaneer 12. That set up a field goal. Now, Vinny began to get on track and did finish with some respectable numbers toward the end. He had 20 of 40 for 262 yards, but he wasn't much good in the scoring department until finally in the fourth quarter. This looks like the Testaverde we're used to. Finds Bruce Hill for a 28-yard touchdown, but it's too little, too late. Lions go on to win it 20-10. Looking at some of the other scores, it was Cleveland over Cincinnati. Seattle tonight beat Denver, and boy, they got a good one tomorrow night, Chicago and San Francisco. Now, keep in mind, this is only a 15-game season. They lost a week of games because of the strike, so there are more teams than ever still alive in the playoff race. With just 2 weeks to go in the regular season, none of the AFC playoff spots have been nailed down. Eastern Division could end up in a dead heat, a 5-way tie. Right now, Buffalo has the edge in the tiebreaker system. The Bills own the best record within the division. In the Central, Cleveland and Pittsburgh are tied at the top, with Houston still very much in the hunt, but Cincinnati is out of it. Denver, despite losing tonight, still has a half-game lead over San Diego and Seattle in the AFC West. They're in a good shot to either win the division or get a wild card spot. Raiders were officially eliminated today, by the way. Things are much clearer in the NFC. Washington has clinched in the East. St. Louis still has a chance at a wild card spot. Bears have walked away with the Central Division again. Minnesota can't catch them, but the Vikings can earn the last wild card spot if they win their remaining games. Both San Francisco and New Orleans are in. One of them will win the division. The other gets a wild card spot, and the Red Hot Rams mathematically still in the hunt, too. We'll have a pop quiz later on that, and hope you were taking notes. Up next on Sunday Video Sports Extra, top names in women's tennis hit backhands for charity, and 2 Broward girls make national high school wrestling history. Stay with us. And welcome back to Sunday Video Sports Extra. The Houston Rockets have broken up their twin tower combination in a blockbuster trade late last night. Rockets sent 7'4" Ralph Sampson along with Steve Harris to the Golden State Warriors in exchange for Eric Sleepy Floyd and Joe Barry Carroll. Also, the Warriors announced today that Chris Mullins will be out for an indefinite period. He has entered an alcohol rehabilitation center. Martina Navratilova and her partner Maria Bueno taking on Chris Everett and Wendy Turnbull in an exhibition doubles match today at the Doral Country Club. Taking that point on the Martinez Slam, this was part of a weekend of tennis events at Doral with all the proceeds benefiting the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. 20 members of the Women's International Tennis Association were on hand, along with celebrities from other sports, television, and the movies. This was match point for the Everett Turnbull team. Finally, Chris puts it just out of Martinez's reach for the point and the match. Right there. Bob Tway made a great shot today in the final round of the Chrysler Team Tournament. From about 85 yards away, he hit a wedge that will back up on the green. Watch this, rolls right into the cup for an eagle. Tway and his partner Mike Hulbert finished 37 shots under par to win the tournament. This birdie putt sealed the victory for Tway and Hulbert today up in West Palm Beach. An undefeated filly named Plate Queen put her perfect record on the line today at Hialeah. In the Poinsettia Stakes, Plate Queen came from all the way from 9th place to take the lead on the home stretch and beat out Hushy by 3.5 lengths. The winning time for 7 furlongs, 1:23 3/5 seconds. Recap of the football scores, NHL and NBA results, all yours in the Sports Extra scoreline with numbers in Dade and Broward. In recent years, women have made enormous strides in the field of athletic competition. Even at the high school level, women are breaking new ground in areas never before dreamed of. Doug Vaughn has more from Hollywood Hills High School.
She looks and acts like any other high school freshman. Dawn Ward worries about her hair, has a lot of friends at Hollywood Hills, and is involved in an after-school activity. But it is that activity that makes her different. Dawn Ward is on the boys' wrestling team. A sport traditionally reserved for broad-shouldered brutes has been invaded by girls who compete under the same rules.
Everything's the same. There's no separate rules, no special rules, except for, you know, watch out where you grab or whatever.
We know that if a girl took this to court, she would in fact win the case. So we feel that we'll let it go and ride its course and see what happens.
Dawn Ward doesn't wrestle to make a feminist statement. She does it simply because she likes it. And she doesn't care if others think she's crazy.
When I was little, there was not very many little girls around me. And I always ended up with the boys, and I didn't really like girls because I thought they were too sissy. I was a real tomboy.
Just 2 days after joining the Hollywood Hills team, Dawn was suited up for her first match in the 119-pound division. This is not the first time a girl has competed on a boys' high school wrestling team. That barrier was broken several years ago. But as far as anybody can tell, it is the first time that a girl from one high school has wrestled a girl from another high school in a regular season match. As it turned out, the opposing team, Nova High School, also has a girl on its roster. And it just happens that Tracy Porter is in the same weight division as Dawn Ward. High school athletic history was made when the two girls squared off on the mat. It was obvious early that Dawn, in the blue, was the quicker and stronger of the two. With a couple of takedowns and reversals, she built a 9-1 lead after 2 periods. In the third period, Tracy, on the bottom and obviously tiring, could no longer avoid the inevitable.
I wanted the pin. I was looking for the pin, and everyone told me, you got the pin, you got it in the first match.
While the crowd cheered its new hero and the press hung on Dawn's every word, at the other side of the gym, Tracy Porter was coping with defeat.
I got beat, but I learned a lot, and I'll just, next time I won't do the same thing, and I'll, keep on going till I win.
It's hard to say whether this match represents a growing trend in high school wrestling or just a freak coincidence. But Hollywood Hills has 3 other girls who are practicing with the junior varsity and hoping someday to join Dawn Ward on the wrestling team. Doug Vaughn for Sunday Video Sports Extra.
And remember, our thought for the night, watch where you grab. That is our show for tonight. Thank you so much for being with us. George Michael Sports Machine is next. Good night. Have a great week.